you'd like to stand, you can. If you're willing and able and all the heat is shaken off of you. Let's do the way of the heart. We don't have words in the program this time. We're still crawling back to life, but I'll help. So if you don't know, it starts with let the way of the heart. Let the way of the heart. Let the way of the heart. Let the way of the heart shine through. Our love, love upon love upon love. All hearts beating as one. All hearts are beating as one. Light upon light. Light upon light upon light. Shining bright as the sun. Shining as bright as the sun. Let the way of the heart. Let the way of the heart. Let the way of the heart shine through. Love, love upon love upon love. All hearts are beating as one. Light upon light. Light upon light upon light. Shining bright as the sun. Shining as bright as the sun.
I just have to check you all out. This is the best part about being a trustee. It's just being up here and being able to see all of you. It's my very favorite, very favorite. Oh, good morning. My name is Mary Ann, and on behalf of Reverend Donna Maurer and the Board of Trustees, I am privileged to welcome you to the Sonora Desert Center for Spiritual Living. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are truly, truly welcome here. Here you will be valued, supported, and encouraged to be all that you're meant to be. Our vision statement is love in action, every day, in every way. We express this love by learning and living the principles of the science of mind. You'll find our Declaration of Principles at the back of your program. Please join me now in reading them. This is a refresher. I believe there's an infinite intelligence operating throughout the universe. I believe this intelligent power is only good. I believe this intelligence expresses as me. I believe through my conscious use of this power, I create my life as happy, healthy, and complete. And so it is. If this is your first time here, we especially welcome you and thank you for your interest and curiosity. I would like to thank those who are assisting to make this morning possible. That means all of you. It really does mean all of you. But John and Donna and Heather, Reverend Donna and Heather, and the doers, and Gray, and if I forgot anybody, sorry. Oh, those are the doers. Those are the doers. Yes, yes. Bruce and Wanda, the doers. Thank you. All right. Please direct your attention to the announcements in your bulletin. Wow, bulletin. If you're watching online, please visit cslaz.org for our announcements and events calendar. Thank you. Thank you all.
The idea that it is wrong for people to pray for or treat to get what we call material good is based on the belief that reality and actuality are separated by a gulf which can be bridged only through individual suffering, impoverishment, and misery, that man may be redeemed from all this misery in some uncertain future, but not here and now. Yet, Jesus stood in the midst of the here and now and proclaimed that the kingdom of heaven is within and at hand. We find then that the teaching of Jesus is quite at variance with the idea that it is wrong to ask for what we desire. For did he not say, "What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that you receive them, and ye shall have them"? Jesus clearly taught that it is right for us to have what we want, provided we subject our desires to the divine will and the divine necessity. Divine will means the nature of God or spirit, and divine necessity means the law of cause and effect. We know that as far as the divine is concerned, it is always its will that we be self-expressed, for God is expressed through the expression of us. If we have complied with the divine will, the law of cause and effect, which has no purpose of its own to execute, but is a blind but intelligent force, must bring the pattern of our desire to us. Jesus stated this proposition in its most simple terms when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Whether these things be automobiles, undershirts, or sacks of beans makes no difference. Next, Jesus lays down the way in which the law will answer us. This is the divine necessity, the law of cause and effect. Let us approach this idea of substance and supply and the law of opulence with a firm conviction that the eternal is forever saying to the temporal that the Father is forever proclaiming to the Son, "All that I have is thine." Even though manna falls from heaven, we must accept it. The manna is substance, and our receptivity of it is our supply. The law of opulence is in us, an ever-increasing mental equivalent of the good we desire. The law of mental equivalence says that we can possess any objective thing provided we first have a mental, subjective image of it. Substance takes form through faith, is shaped by conviction, and projected upon the screen of human experience through the mold of mental equivalence. So first you got to have it up here before you can manifest it out here. Okay? We must remember that the law of cause and effect, the universal subjectivity, has no intention or purpose of its own relative to any individual. We make up its mind for it. And that is a phrase taken right out of Thomas Troward, who you all probably know is one of my other favorite spiritual teachers. We make up its mind for it. As far as we're concerned, it has no thought for us other than the thought we ourselves entertain about life. It creates form through idea. There is no big or little in the law. This is the crux of the whole matter. Not two powers, but one. What we need to change is not the law, but our use of it. Thank you. Namaste. And so, as prac of the day, I light our service candle and take it over to our prayer table, where I will be holding the high watch. And if any of you have any prayer requests for today, please fill out a card and put it in the little box over there, and our practitioner team will do affirmative prayer treatment for you all during the week. Thank you.
There is a light that shines in every one of us. There is a light that shines in every one of us. That light is God, that light is love, that light is spirit. There is a light that shines in every one of us. There is a light that shines in every one of us. That light is God, that light is love, that light is spirit.
So we're continuing our theme, The Way of the Heart. And today, as John said, my topic is From a Generous Heart, Abundance. Many of you, or some of you I know, remember Alan Hutton. He was a longtime member of the center. In fact, he came before I did. So he was here when I was here, when I first came in. But he moved recently, or about a year and a half, 2 years ago, from Green Valley to Tucson, and he's now a member of the Unity Center there. But I love him, and when he had a part-time position that he just loved as an advocate for children within the judicial system. And he had a small child in his charge. And I think that the boy was 6 or 7 when Alan first brought him to our center. He had been taken away from his mother, who had been deemed unfit to care for him. They didn't even know who his father was. And so the courts were trying to determine whether he should live with his grandmother or go to a foster home. So Alan not only walked this young man through the process, advocating for his best care, but he took him under his wing as kind of a big brother. He took him to his first ever football game. He took him on picnics and on trips to the mountains and other places of interest. And all the while, he spoke to the boy about the principles of science of mind, not as a lesson, but just in the course, general course of conversation. And it was through Alan's unwavering kindness and generosity, as well as his readiness to give so much more of himself than his job demanded, that he was able to directly influence this boy, saving him from being lost in the cracks of our somewhat broken system. So he was placed in a beautiful foster family and began doing well in school and flourishing in other ways. Alan remained friends with him. As a matter of fact, he's friends to this day, and I think that the boy now is in his mid-20s. But I truly believe, had it not been for Alan, this young man's life could have taken a dramatic turn. But it was because of Alan's generous heart that this young man was empowered to become his highest and best self. And that's one way I think that true generosity, which comes from sincerity and kindness, can directly influence the behavior of others. So the beauty of living from a generous heart, which I think is what you and I strive to do, is that what we give out does return back to us. Not that we're watching for it, but it's an ongoing process. That you can't do one without the other. And so if you would ask Alan today or any time about this young man, what you'll see is that his eyes light up and there's a smile that flickers on his face. And if you tell him that he was a real gift to that boy, I know because I said that to him, his response to me and to you is, I received so much more than I gave. And I think that this too is the abundance that is generated from a generous heart. Because when generosity is our automatic response, it is because at some point in our own consciousness, we have affirmed the abundance of the universe. You know, last week we talked about Charles Eisenstein's belief that we are the beginning a new story. One that is about inclusivity, connectedness. One that relinquishes the hold the story of separateness has had over us. And I said that I believe that you and I are the vision holders because we teach this stuff. We've been teaching it for almost 100 years now, so that we are shaping that story. And when you and I lead with our heart, lack and limitation, which are part of the old story, give way to an authentic generosity that gives back to the giver as well. So like Alan, our response is, I got back so much more than I gave. You know, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, tells us real giving is the art of transmitting ourselves to others and to the conditions and situations that surround us. This kind of giving is not something for special occasions only, for it should become a habit growing out of our desire to live life to the fullest extent. Only that which becomes an inward habit of thought can spontaneously flow from the heart and transmit itself to everything we touch. Just as life belongs to the one who lives it, so the fuller life belongs only to the one who scatters every good he has. It's the giving of oneself to every person, every project, and every association with zest, love, and friendliness that one sees the larger possibility in all things. Beauty instead of ugliness, love instead of hate, the divine hidden within the human. So to me, what Dr. Holmes is describing, he's describing that generous heart from which abundance pours, you know. And I found a story on a blog by author and pastor Joshua Becker. And he says, I have a good friend named Mark, a bit older than me. He has 3 daughters, the youngest of which is 9. And not long ago, he shared with me the story of how their family had just bought a new puppy. Mark's youngest daughter had always been good about saving money. So whenever she'd receive money from birthday, Christmas, or weekly allowance, she'd immediately put it away into her piggy bank. And after years of faithful saving, she had $200 in a little pink pig. And this was until she decided she wanted a dog. So Mark and his wife were not against the idea of having a family dog. As a matter of fact, they had had dogs all along in their own lives. So when their daughter noticed a handmade flyer at their local coffee shop posted by a farmer looking for loving homes for his new puppies, everything seemed to be lining up perfectly. So on a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon, the entire family drove to the farm to get a first-hand look at the new puppies and meet the parents. Upon arrival, it didn't take long to notice the small farmhouse and recognize this farmer's family lived a very frugal lifestyle, almost certainly because they had to. So after visiting the farmer and playing with the puppies, they returned home promising to make a decision by the morning. And by the time they pulled out of the dirt driveway, Mark and his wife knew that they would be returning tomorrow to bring home a new family member. But first, they had an important life lesson to teach their daughter, who was the instigator of this huge lifestyle change. A dog is a big responsibility, Mark told me, and we wanted to use this opportunity to teach our daughter some life lessons about responsibility, hard work, and discipline. And so that evening, they asked their daughter if she was willing to pay for the dog with her own money. "But the puppies are free," she replied. "Yes, I know," Mark responded, "but think about all the love and the care that the farmer and his wife have invested into our puppies' life already providing food and water and a warm home to live in. Not to mention all the time they invested finding loving homes for each puppy. And they don't have much. Don't you think it'd be nice to give them something even though the puppies are free?" So in the back of his mind, Mark knew his daughter's financial investment would help her realize the responsibility she was undertaking and make her more likely to follow through with the responsibility of caring for a needy puppy. So he said, "Why don't you go up to your room and think about how much you'd like to offer the farmer as a gift, then come tell me. It's entirely up to you." About 5 minutes later, she came bounding down the stairs with a skip. "I would like to give them $100 for my puppy," she said with a smile. Mark was caught a bit off guard by this generous offer because in his mind he had thought $25 would be a pretty nice gesture. I mean, the puppies were technically free. And he never dreamt his perpetual saver daughter would give up half of her entire net worth for the puppy because she'd spent years saving that money. So not sure how to respond, Mark thought maybe if she thought about it a bit longer, she'd change her mind and lower her offer. So he responded, "Wow, that sure is a big number. Maybe you should think a little bit longer if you really want to give that much. Why don't you go back up to your room and really think about this decision? Take more than 5 minutes, and whatever you decide will be our final decision." You know where this is going, don't you? She walked back up the stairs a little slower than she'd descended. 15 minutes later, Mark was starting to wonder if she'd been distracted by something else and forgotten the entire assignment. But just as he was getting ready to retrieve her head popped around the corner as she neared the stairs, and the skip had returned to her step. Mark looked forward to hearing the new decision. "Well, what did you decide?" he asked as soon as she was within sound of his voice. "Well," she said, I was thinking about what you said, about how much work they've already put in providing a nice home for the puppy. And then I started looking around my room and thinking about this nice house that we live in and all the nice stuff we have and how the farmer and his wife have so little. And so, Dad, I have decided to change how much money I would like to give them for the puppy. Instead of $100, I would like to give them $200, everything in my piggy bank." So the lesson that Mark thought he'd teach his daughter about responsibility became his most precious lesson about the way of the heart. When we are immersed in gratitude, giving is our automatic reaction. When we recognize that we live in an abundant world and that this abundance is ours by divine heritage, we know that we have everything necessary to fulfill us. And that makes our natural inclination to give back. There's another story. This one is from Mr. Eisenstein's book, which kind of speaks about this generosity and how it goes around, comes around. He said that recently a man from Colorado named Chris described a real estate investment seminar he had led many years ago. It was a multi-day event with 160 real estate investors, and it was, by his own admission, quite dull. On the third day, something came over him. He put aside his presentation and, as he describes it, virtually channeled an activity he had once experienced at a Tony Robbins seminar. He asked everyone in the audience to reach into their purses and wallets and grab some money. And then he told them, and especially large bills, then he told them, crumple up the money in your hand. I'm going to ask you to do something on the count of 3 without thinking. When I get to 3, take the money and throw it in the air with a scream. Just do it. Now, 1, 2, 3. And the whole room did as they were told, and once they screamed, they couldn't stop screaming. And when things finally settled down, he told them, all right, now I'm going to give you a choice. You can either go pick up your money, showing that money controls you, or you can leave it on the floor because you are the master of money. So for the rest of the day, the seminar was magical. The air in the room seemed to vibrate. At the end of the afternoon, it was time to leave the hotel auditorium where the event was being held. What are we going to do with the money? Asked the participants. If we're truly not enslaved to the money, then we are going to leave it here on the floor, said Chris. It's the gift to the janitorial staff. One man, scowling, picked up his money and stalked out. But the rest left it there. And Chris stayed for a while in that empty room, thousands of dollars littering the floor. And soon the hotel cleaners arrived, 5 of them. And they stopped dead in their tracks, jaws open, staring at the floor. What to do? So, of course, they went to the guy in the suit. He said, Senor. They said, what is this? And they didn't speak English, and Chris didn't speak any Spanish. And he tried to explain that it was for them, but to no avail. For you. But they couldn't hear him. For that to be true was an impossibility in their world. So they couldn't hear it. Even if they understood him, they couldn't hear it. So before long, they had called in their supervisor, and Chris explained to him that the money was for the janitors. And when this supervisor finally understood that this was for real, he was overcome with emotion and started to weep. He said, this is more money than they make in a month. And he said, I don't know what you guys have been doing in here, but you're welcome back to our hotel anytime. But that magic continued for the remaining 2 days of the seminar. Chris told the participants about the experience of the janitors, and that spirit of generosity became infectious. People were paying for people behind them at the cafe when they went to lunch. There was one thing after another that was showing this way that this whole thing starts as a circle, as a continuous circle. And the rest of the seminar seemed to carry a magical, intuitive flow. And he said years later he still gets emails from those participants telling them that their lives have never been the same. So the power of that act of generosity was far beyond the mere economic impact on the working class janitors. Its power lay in its violation of the laws of reality as the janitors, their supervisor, and the seminar participants had known. In other words, we opened up a new story. The impossible happened that day. So experiences like that tell us the world doesn't work the way we thought it did. The realm of the possible is greater than you and I can believe it to be. The old story that we are leaving behind is the one that is being lived by the scowling man who picked up his money and stomped off. It's the story that there isn't enough, so I will give you just enough to appease my guilt. The new story we are shaping is filled with the impossible happening, because the realm of the possible is so much greater than what the old story would have us believe. The new story beckons us to see the world and ourselves from the inside out, rather than the outside in. The new story tells us that when we listen to our heart rather than the opinions of others, that we are guided by a power unparalleled in the outside world. Charles Eisenstein says, because the desire to give is a primal expression of the life force, actions taken in the gift bring a feeling of being fully alive. Every act of generosity is an invitation into generosity. So generosity then becomes a way of the heart, because it becomes a habit. It becomes the way we see the world rather than just the actions that we take. And I think if we think about it, generosity and gratitude go hand in hand. Just like the little girl started giving thanks for everything that she had. The more grateful we are, the better stewards we become of everything that we have been given. Brother David Stendhal Rast says, gratitude is not a passive response to something we have been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without us. Gratitude is not necessarily something that is shown after the event. It is the deep a priori state of attention that shows us we understand and are equal to the gifted nature of life. Gratitude is the understanding that many millions of things come together and live together and mesh together and breathe together in order for us to even take one breath. That the underlying gift of life and that incarnation as a living, participating human being is a privilege. When we are grateful for our life and for the blessings we receive, it becomes easy to give. Because generosity is more like a byproduct of gratitude. It's part of that flow of giving and receiving. So I want to close with something that I found on the internet. And there's copies of them on the front table if you want one. They're in blue ink. Be generous with your words. Never miss an opportunity to tell someone how you feel about them or something they have done. A word of encouragement, a note of appreciation, a sincere compliment can brighten someone's day and even change a life. Be generous with your thoughts. Think the best of others and seize them as they would like to be and not as they may be right now. Be generous with your money. Find an occasion to share what you have with others. Money is like love. The more you give away, the more it returns back to you. Be generous with your heart. Keep it open no matter how frightening that may be sometimes. An open heart will heal every ailment and restore peace to your soul. Be generous with your smile. Give it away to everyone you meet and see the world reflected back to you in joyous celebration. And be generous with your love. It is who you really are and why you came here. And in the end, it is all that really matters. Thank you. Namaste.
You want to talk about generosity of spirit and talk about collaboration and working together towards a common cause. Something really, really special happened a couple of weeks ago on the Wednesday night show. I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory. My special guest for that night had an emergency, wasn't able to attend, and so I called you up and I went, well, I guess I'm on my own this week. And I started out kind of bummed, and going, oh, well, I got to change the whole program and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden the chat started to light up. And one of, several actually, of our regular attendees started throwing out some really cool little phrases. And I was just kind of strumming, going, okay, what song am I going to do next here? Well, I got to fill up the rest of the time, And I see these phrases start coming through the chat room. And we ended up with an impromptu songwriting session. And I went, okay, maybe this is a sign to restructure everything about this program while we're anticipating Wednesday Night Live. And what came out of it was not only a collaboration and a truly circulation. It was our theme song now, and it's called A Circle of Love, based completely on comments in the chat. Holy in the flow, holy in the flow, holy in the flow of spirit. Spirit, divine chill. chill. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round in spirit. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round in spirit. That's how we roll. In the circle of love. Not bad, huh? And I actually gave songwriting credit to the person who contributed the most chats. His name is Wayne, and he lives up in Calgary, Alberta. And he's there just about every time. So we are holy in the flow, holy in the flow, holy in the flow of spirit, holy in the flow, holy in the flow, holy in the flow of spirit, divine chill, in the circle of love. Anybody else think of anything to throw in there? Why not? Let's do Wednesday Night Live live. Such a great little. How about generous of heart? Generous of heart, generous of heart, generous of heart and spirit. Generous of heart, generous of heart, generous of heart and spirit. That's how we roll. In the circle of love. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round in spirit. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round. Good goes round and round in spirit. Divine chill. In the circle of love. That's how we roll. In the circle of love. That's how we roll. In the circle of love. Thanks, Wayne.
Isn't it funny how things bubble up, when you don't expect them, especially starting out and being so disappointed, and then have it be the very best gift, So, yes. So it is time for our offering. So I ask that you join me in our offering affirmation, and those of you who are watching online, there is a space at the bottom of our videos every week that says donate. So if you'd like to join us and be a part of this beautiful group of people, just send us a little gift, because it'll do good things out in the world. I can promise you that. So, okay. So won't you join me in our offering affirmation? My gift goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless all that it touches. It is my conviction, evidence of my conviction, that God is the source and substance of my supply. I share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is.
Thank you for my abundance. I feel prosperous. It's all around me. Thank you for my abundance.
Okay. Again, thank you for your generosity. I was able, for those of you who were last week, I was able to get the butter and cheese over to the food bank. So, for those of you who don't know, I order online from Safeway, and I got somebody else's order, and they won't take it back. They just repick. So I was sitting here with 8 pounds of butter and 10 pounds of cheese and wondering what to do with it, but Mauricio was very, very delighted. So it found a home. Again, that's how stuff goes around and comes around. So let's just take a moment to close our service out in prayer. And just again, I am so grateful that you are here with us today. And I know that right now there is only God. There is only good. And so I turn to that good and speak my word for each and every one of us, that we do lead with a generous heart. And from that deep habit of generosity, love and goodness flows back into our lives and out in the world as that continuous holy flow. I know that we are blessed in each thing that we do, each moment that we breathe, as we just simply take a moment to give thanks for all the incredible blessings in our life. And I speak a word for anyone who's experiencing any kind of a challenge, and know that the power and love of God can cure, can restore everything to its wholeness and perfection. And I claim that right now. So in gratitude and in love, I release these words into the law of mind to do its perfect work as we say together, and so it is. Thank you.